Hello,
I am Mike,
and I am Adrian.
and we are young doctors from the Philippines.
If this is your first time to join us, we talk about anything related to pre-med, med proper, clerkship, internship, PLE, USMLE, and beyond.
Welcome to the Better Pill, your weekly prescription of tips and insights to become better students
Better interns.
and better doctors.
Today, Sibs and I were very excited and very happy because this is the very first time that we're recording our podcast episode. And because this is a very special episode, it's the pilot episode, we also invited a very special guest. Di ba, Sibs?
You graduated cum laude from Ateneo de Manila University, the Ateneo, BS Psychology, and graduated magna cum laude from the UST Faculty of Medicine and Surgery.
Syempre, this man, he's a very good friend of ours. And in fact, sa med school, I call him by the nickname Legend.
Ako ang tawag ko naman kay classmate, the perfect man.
Syempre, rightfully so kasi marami tong skills and talents. Ganda ng boses, magaling kumanta, galing magsalita, matalino.
Ganda ng build.
Syempre. And that's why siya talaga, the perfect man, the legend talaga. So without any further ado, help me welcome the legend in the flesh, Mr. Dr. Arvin Tan.
What's up?
Hello, Arvin.
Kumusta?
Legend,
Hello.
kumusta?
Okay naman.
What have you been up
Okay
to
naman. It's all
in the
good.
past 6 months?
Ayun. Living the life. Well, hindi, not really. Not really. Not at all, actually. Doing outpatient clinic and then preparing for my step 2 CK.
Yeah.
And that's what's been keeping me busy for the past how many months?
For the past 6 months, no? Because we got our license
Yeah.
last November. So, you've been
Mhm.
doing duty in the clinic and studying as well on the side.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so yun yung naging kumbaga, most of my days basically doing medicine.
Yeah, because we are doctors.
Na-apply na yung mga naaral natin sa med school.
Yeah, totoo yun.
Arvin already passed USMLE Step 1, no? Am I right? Sorry, hindi kasi
Yeah,
ako masyadong
that's-
familiar sa USMLE eh.
Yeah, that's correct. Tama yun.
Ang tawag ko nga kay Arvin, the pioneer. Biro mo bro.
Bakit pioneer? Siya ba yung unang pumasa ng
Siya yata
Step
yung
one?
unang pumasa. Nag-take tayo ng PLE nung November. Nag-take agad siya ng step 1 nung December. Kaya the pioneer.
So, pinagsabay niya
Pinagsabay.
pag-aralin yung
Two-timer.
USMLE.
Two-timer tong si Arvin.
Well, anyway, so talagang Arvin is the perfect guest for today kasi we'll be talking about USMLE. Yung title nga ng episode natin yan is Where Do I Begin? So Arvin, first question. I understand you and Sibs have already passed step 1. First question, when should you start studying? Should you start in med school or during internship ba? Or
First year,
sasabihin mo ba siya
second
sa PLE? For you, what's the perfect time to start studying for the USMLE?
For me, siguro, start first year pa lang of med school. I think that's if you can, kung, like, if you're third year already or later on in the journey, syempre, you can't turn back time. But if you can, if you're parang just starting out med school, start from med school pa lang. Kasi, well, I'm biased kasi that's what I did. First year of med school, I told myself, bumili na ako ng first aid for the MLE, 2015. Yun yung first book ko. And then, lahat ng edition. Tapos, yun, I read it every summer. So, summer of first year, binasa ko yung kasi naka-breakdown, if you see the book, naka-breakdown yung components niya
Systems-based
into
pa siya, di ba?
physio, systems-based siya, pero within, for example, systems-based siya per naka-chapter system. And then, nakasulat doon, naka-breakdown yung chapters into 4 parts. Yung parang embryology, anatomy, tapos physiology yung second part. So, yung after first year ng med school, yun yung binasa ko nung summer. The first 2 parts. For all
So, kumbaga, parang na-review mo rin yung inaral mo during the first year.
Yeah, na-review ko siya. Tapos parang na-pick out ko na, okay, siguro ito yung mga important parts. Kasi people have been saying, diba, that the first aid for the MLE is really parang, it's, kumbaga, Bible siya. It's the base of all of your knowledge is from that book na importante. So I thought na okay, then it must be worth my time to really pour my heart out into reading it. So and apparent ayun nga, I'm glad I made that decision because I like until now preparing for step 2 CK. You'd think diba the drop ko na yung first aid, but oh my goodness. Siguro the past how many months that I've been preparing for Step 2 CK, binabalik-balikan ko pa rin yung Step 1. Kasi yung in my head, yung sa mind map ko, iniisip ko na yung base ng knowledge ko is yung laman ng step ng first aid. Tapos nire-refine ko siya. Na parang, okay, so nagbago na pala yung update. So, mag-change yung age range, for example, or madadagdagan. So, nagkakabagong mnemonic ako, nagka-cluster. Parang,
so, step 1, relevant pa rin pala for step 2.
Oh, yeah. Oo, sobra. And, I think, parang I partly may mistake ako kasi parang medyo, I prepared too early siguro, or you would say. Or I should have taken my exam earlier. Kasi diba, when you prepare for an exam, meron yung parang curve na at a certain point, nasa peak ka ng preparation and it's the best time to take your exam. Tapos kapag pinatagal mo ng kaunti, medyo bababa na yun. Yeah. So I think na that's why yung score ko was not as high as I wanted it to be. Partly because I prepared too early. Pero at the same time, thankful ako na I prepared early kasi sobrang confident ako na yung base ng knowledge ko. Sure ako. So kumbaga, like for example, when I read a question, when you read a vignette, my mind's already working. Parang alam ko na okay, more or less I have an idea what's going on. Hindi ako yung parang nangangapa. Kasi parang the way my mind, yung organization ng information in my head, naka-base talaga on solid material. For some,
so nabanggit mo na nung summer, nagbasa ka nung summer ng first year, nagbasa ka ng first aid. So, during, kunyari, second year na, kailangan ko ba basahin ulit yung first aid? I mean, during your med school days, how do you juggle MLE and med school requirements?
Nung med school, so di ba nag-start ako una kong binuklat yung first aid was after first year med. Nung second year med, binilang ko yung number of pages bago nag-start. Tapos, split ko into one whole year, 365 days. So, pag kinompute mo yun, you need to finish 5 pages. Actually, hindi. 2 pages per day to be able to complete the whole book for a year. So, second read ko na yun. Pero, if you do it 5 pages per day, magatatapos mo yung book times 2 for that year. So, pero, if you dedicate 5 pages per day, or 2 pages per day na may option ka, either 5 pages per day na light reading or 2 pages per day na tatry mong i-memorize yung laman ng
Bro, I like what Arvin did kasi I think that's the best way to prepare, no? To really schedule and to break up something big into smaller chunks, into bite-sized pieces kasi mas kaya siyang i-digest
smaller,
and you have more time to digest it as opposed to like reading a ton of pages in just a few days, parang isang bagsakan, mas mahirap yun. So maganda yung ginawa ni Arvin to really, parang spread yung buong book into the whole year. But I have a question lang, Arvin, kasi may nakausap din ako. I was asking him about how he reviewed din. if he incorporated it sa med school life niya, you set aside time to study na parang tailored talaga for USMLE. Yung advice naman ng isa kong nakausap is, just be a good student. If you attend your classes, if you study for the exam, for your exams, for your quizzes, parang that's sort of enough time na for a good enough preparation for a good foundation for the USMLE Step 1 at least. Sa tingin mo ba, is that also a sound strategy? Yung just be a good student, parang ganun? Or do you really have to tailor your strategy na it's really for the USMLE?
Kailangan first aid ba agad?
I think tama yun. You have to be a good student. Kasi remember, you're a doctor first in the country you're studying. So, you have to know what's going on here. What I did was, I really wanted to try to go to the States. Parang yun yung medyo, before going into med school. One of the reasons why I wanted to go into med was because I thought it was a good way to do something outside of here in the Philippines. Tapos so inisip ko, and then I was reading, before entering med school, I was really reading a lot about how the whole process, like studying for step 1, residency, what materials to use. Tapos so I had this parang general strategy going into med school na, okay, throughout my med journey, this is what I'll do. So, yun, syempre, nung nasa med school, you surround yourself, I mean, it's a community so, syempre, diba, when you have, for example, may lab practicals ka, tapos, syempre, you have to study slides, and may mga stuff na you need to know specifically for the exam, na hindi necessarily relevant for step 2, but for the MLEs. Yeah. But you study it anyway kasi it's important. It's part of the exam. The disease is prevalent in the country where you're staying, so you study it anyway. Tapos what I do is since I read first aid very early, yung and sinabi ko din sa sarili ko na commitment ko, yung first aid will be my Bible. Parang Bible siya ng medical knowledge ko. Binasa ko siya. So when I, for example, nag-discuss yung professor mo about parasites, for example. Sabihin natin, strongyloides, nabanggit. Tapos parang in my head, parang may nabasa akong strongyloides dun sa first aid. Balikan ko nga. Okay. Yeah. So, may first aid ako sa phone na I can just type and then I read again na, okay, ito yun. So, and then I try to memorize very quickly. Tapos, after that, I go back to the lesson. And this is all happening while the class is going on. Na parang, tinatry kong isingit. So, parang integrated siya. So, in the end, yun talagang, kumbaga, kung may malaki akong notebook ng first aid sa utak ko. Tapos, yung side notes ko is all of the stuff that we learned from first year med, from physio, anatomy, lahat yun. Yung brachial plexus na drawing, yung drawing na nakatatak sa utak ko is
from first
yung
aid.
Drawing sa first aid. Tapos naka-integrate dun. Lahat
kasi naman, yung laman naman ng first aid, parang, I mean, nadidiscuss din naman sa med school, di ba? Parang, siguro 90 to 95% of it, we study din naman in med school, right? So, relevant din yung first aid technically sa med
Tsaka
school.
yung mga mnemonics
super.
na gamit ko rin kahit nung PLE.
What's funny is, nung Revalida, for, diba, in UST we have a Revalida. Siguro 50% ng information na nilabas ko was coming from first aid. Kasi ano siya parang the way the information is presented, it's very clinically oriented. So, alam mo na yung inaaral mo, you know where it's going. Hindi siya yung parang, I'm
That's
just
right,
memorizing this just because.
Pwede pa lang tawagin si Arvin, the walking first aid.
Actually. Pero super helpful ang first aid. And
super.
even up to the PLE review. Actually, I used some USMLE resources for the PLE
super.
review. Kasi
talagang first aid.
Yung MLE resources. And especially first aid, no? That's that, no? The best time to start is as soon as possible. when you enter med school,
Yeah.
kung pwede, you already set aside time to prepare for it. And be a good student, of course.
Of course, be a good student. Kasi, for example, parang the reason why syempre, people have different journeys, but I think na if you're already here, you're gonna get licensed here. You're gonna be a doctor here first, and then, even like for example, what happened now with what do you call this? The recent, because of the pandemic, how a couple of exams were canceled, and then all of a sudden we were thinking na wala namang kwenta yung registration mo with the PRC. Originally, people were thinking like that, diba? Pero but then now it's one of the pathways to be able to get certification by ECFMG is through your local regulatory board, which is the PRC. So, diba? Parang, kumbaga, don't think that what you're studying here is walang kwenta, because honestly, that's it's super important.
And the PLE naman, preparation for the PLE and the USMLE, hindi naman sila like two very separate paths, no? Parang marami namang gray area yun na, diba?
May konting overlap din.
Complementary. That's what I always tell the people that time na because people knew that time that I was preparing for the MLE and the PLE. Some of my friends. So I was telling them, okay lang naman kasi complementary. And then so there are a bunch of things in the PLE na medyo extra, and there are a bunch of things in the MLE na medyo extra. But in the end, at the end of the day, if you study both, it makes you so much better doctor.
Yeah.
by a
So,
big
nabanggit
chunk.
mo, Arvin, kanina, no? ECFMG. What's that? I mean, let's talk about the, na lang. Once I decide na, okay, magte-take na ako ng USMLE, I've started studying, are there things I have to process? Meron bang mga online registration? Those kinds of things which I have to deal with?
Yeah, there are a couple.
The moment I start
first-
studying?
At the moment you start studying, not really. Maybe the moment you can even do it after graduation. It doesn't really matter. I got too excited, so I did it already. Pero all the resources you can check online. It's just type ECFMG. It's the Educational Council for Foreign Medical Graduates. So yun, sila yung parang council that certifies that we're up to standard in terms of medical education. And their main mode of assessment is the USMLE. And I think some countries already accept the ECFMG as a form of certification if you don't want to take their specific licensure exams. Like I think the UK,
New Zealand.
and Australia and New Zealand. And then parang they just add a bunch of other requirements na, you have to finish this much. Pero in terms of yung medical knowledge, hindi siya like totally just for the States. So yun, it's still added. Kumbaga, whether it's somebody who validates your medical education pretty much. Parang ganun.
Vina-validate niya lang yung, yung diploma mo ba from your country? Is that what they do? Basically. And yung kasi you have to get the certificate, The
you need
MLE
to pass
first.
the MLEs. So yeah.
Kunwari, sige, I decided na I'm gonna take, nakapag-aral na ako. Let's talk about step 1 na lang siguro muna, no? Right now. Nakapag-aral na ako ng step 1, I decide to take na, what's the next step that I have to do?
So diba you make your ECFMG
Okay, I make the account online, so I register.
Yeah, register online. There are a couple of fees you have to pay. Tapos there's this whole identity certification process. It takes siguro more or less about a month or two. Kasi back and forth ka. So you make your account, as in para lang gumagawa ng email account, yung unang step. You fill in a couple of information. Tapos there's a part na may verification of status. So they send. It depends sa medical school mo. It does. There are madaming medical schools actually in the country. UST one of them that does this online. So they communicate with ECFMG. They verify your diploma, your identity, all of that. And then, yun yung next step. So, all of that, the whole process siguro takes about 1 to 2
Pero I
months.
think,
more or
Arvin,
less.
diba, kung hindi ka pa graduate versus graduate ka na, pwede ka mag-step 1 na walang diploma, diba? Parang ganun yung process.
Yeah, you can. That was my original plan, na to take step 1 as a student. So, so ginawa ko yung account ko nung ECFMG before graduation. That's why dun sa application ko, nakasulat dun, yung parang nung unang certification ko is student pa din ako. Tapos, I made, so syempre, when I was, kasi nadelay yung exam kasi I didn't feel like I was ready yet. Nung pag-graduate na, I emailed ECFMG. I asked them, parang, will this be a problem? Kasi I got scared. They're very strict about yung you have to be careful with the information that you put in. They're very strict with they call it irregularities in behavior. So if you make a mistake, if you don't call their attention, that's it might cause you problems in the future. So I got scared. So tinawagan ko sila. I asked, or I emailed first, then I called them eventually. I asked them, will this be a problem? Sabi niya, no. Ang importante lang daw is, so for example, you make your ECFMG account when you're still a student, but you want to take it much later, you're not yet ready. Applying for the exam itself, yung step 1, there's another verification na you apply for the exam either as a student or a graduate. So it doesn't, kumbaga siya, they don't really look at it.
Tinatanong pala kung mag-take ka na
Before you take, tatanungin nila, graduate ka na ba or student pa din? Kasi they know naman na you might be taking it at a different point in your career or med journey.
So, pala, kung gumawa ka ng ECFMG account, etc., mag-review ka na, mga magkano kaya yung mga gastos ng student for step 1?
Magkano? Yung first registration mo, you have to, I think mga $75 yung una mong kasi may notary na 75, then I think may initial application na parang about the same price, mga $50 to $75. The exam itself, one something. So more or less mga 1,500
$1,500 US dollars of the USMLE
US
Step
dollars.
1, right?
So, kailangan pala mag-skip ng lunch, no? Pag ganun.
Ilang lunch yun, bro? Sorry, I was just confused, no? Gumawa ako ng ECFMG account, right? After that, paano ako mag-register dun mismo sa USMLE? Because I understand yung USMLE tsaka yung ECFMG, parang separate entities yun, right?
Yeah.
So, how do I
sila.
register, schedule for the USMLE, the actual step 1?
Yung lahat, so applying for the actual exam, sa sa ECFMG
doon
portal
din mismo.
So parang everything, ECFMG is your gateway to everything else.
Okay. Okay, now I understand. So, dun lang din ako mag-a-apply for the step 1 sa ECFMG account ko.
Yeah, dun sa ECFMG.
And then I can take it here, no, sa Pilipinas.
Yeah, that's
naman.
That's what's good about it, is that you can take it here. It's a bit more expensive kasi they may surcharge. Pero if you think about it in the end, if dito ka nakatira, your board and lodging, everything, it makes it much cheaper. That's why I decided to take it here also. Kasi at the end of the day, if you compute everything talaga,
right.
The bottom line is cheaper talaga kasi somebody's feeding you. So, and then somebody's kung gusto mo, if you really need it on that day, if you don't have may maghahatid sa'yo sa testing center. Yung mga mag-administer dun sa testing center, mga Pinoy yung mga yun. So, at least kahit paano may comfort
and you
factor.
don't have to spend for plane ticket.
Diba? Yeah, tapos, for example, like here in Manila, it's administered in Makati. So, it's an area you're familiar with. It's, kumbaga, there are so many things that you need to go, that you need to kind of calm your nerves. It's a high-stakes exam. I mean, it's and True. It can rack a lot of nerves talaga. So you need everything that that you can to kind of support you
Malaking bagay
along
yung
the way.
comfort factor actually na sinabi mo. It adds to your confidence.
Yeah.
Tapos nasa Makati ka pa, no?
Yeah, that's true.
Pwede ka mag-green belt pagkatapos.
Tama.
Oh,
Pili ka 1 to 5.
Yung problema, pandemic eh. Mapuntahan
Yun
ka.
lang.
So, yun. Yun one of the reasons why I also stayed for my Step 2 CK is for the same reason. Kasi nga, kumbaga, parang nadagdagan pa na you're going to the same testing center. So,
Yeah.
alam mo na
Familiar.
hindi siya bago. Alam mo kung saan ka pupunta, anong floor pupuntahan mo, ano yung proseso nila taking you in.
True.
Tapos, hindi siya alien. So, ang gagawin mo lang talaga on that day is to really just calm yourself and focus. So, diba? Imagine doing that. Imagine if you had to do that in a different country.
Mahirap.
Yeah.
Tapos hindi mo pa alam kung saan ka pupunta kasi hindi mo alam yung lugar. Tapos you're gonna have to worry about mag-Uber ka. Paano ka mag-Uber pupunta doon? Paano kung late yung Uber mo? Paano kung hindi ka, alam mo yun, ang dami. Paano kung mawala ka the extra minutes yun? Ang daming so many things can go wrong.
True. Tama. That's a nice consideration.
Pag same yung step 1 mo or step 2, pag step 2 mo, kahit nakapikit ka na, kaya mo napuntahan yung
site.
Naka-blindfold ka papunta din sa... Yeah. Parang ganun.
So, okay, granting Arvin on that I have already registered, I have studied, I have prepared. When is the best time to take it? Kasi kanina sabi mo, as a student, you can take it already, di ba? Or you can opt to take it after graduation.
Yeah.
For you, based on your experience, would you have taken it at an earlier time? Would you think it's best to take it after second year? Or so sa tingin mo, what's your opinion on this based on your experience?
Based on my experience, taking everything, I think that I made the right decision siguro, taking it the time that I did. So I was planning to take it talaga much earlier. Tapos na-delay just because I chickened out. The whole time talaga I was just chickening out. Parang I takot ako to take it. Kasi na-finish, anong taon pa yun? Bago pa lang mag 4th year ng med school, bago mag clerkship, natapos ko na yung UWorld twice. So, tapos at the same time, natapos ko na yung first aid, 5 beses ko na nabasa. That time, So, on paper, ready na ako. Kasi, 2 beses ko na nakuha yung UWorld, na talaga, hammered in na yung information. Pero I didn't feel ready. Parang I felt like, parang may kulang. And then, so I chickened out.
Sorry, Arvin, dun sa mga listeners na hindi alam, ano yung UWorld ba? Yung kahit one sentence lang.
UWorld, parang it's a question bank. It's a good question bank, and then it practices it teaches you how to answer questions, how to think about questions, how to run through it. It's a must use resource for step preparation. Kasi yun, parang diba I started first aid, yun yung base ng knowledge ko. And then I realized when I was doing UWorld questions, kulang yung alam ko. yung learning curve ko from not doing UWorld to doing UWorld was exponential. As in, nung third year, diba third year med school, puro clinical, clinical stuff, diba? And then everybody was studying yung mga notes, yung mga CPG, everything. Ako, kinakal ko that time was UWorld lang. Kasi nandun lahat, as in, ang presentation kasi niya, di ba sanay tayo sa exam dito sa Philippines na yung first and second year exam, talaga, parang most of the questions, half of them, straightforward. What is the muscle, or parang what is the mechanism of action of this? What is the ganun? Straight yung tanong. Sa UWorld kasi, it starts off the question as a case. So parang, 65-year-old male presents to the clinic with chest pain. So what is the pathophysiology of his disease process? Or what's the etiology of his chest pain? Ganun yung questioning. So, parang sobrang nabago yung thought process ko. And then, nakatulong siya significantly in my med school studies talaga. As in, actual academic studies. Sobrang laking tulong.
So, very, very clinical yung approach niya, no, Arvin?
Yeah, very clinical.
Very clinical. Yeah.
Super.
Which is the way it should be, no, in med school. Dapat ganun talaga yung approach natin.
Yeah.
Should be
it teaches you patterns. Kasi parang siyang puzzle. It's like answering a multi-question puzzle every day. So just parang
and it integrates everything, no? The basic subjects with the clinical subjects. Yun yung maganda dun eh. Because ma-integrate niya lahat in one question.
A good part about it is also na parang it mirrors what clinical practice is like. Kasi sometimes they're gonna give you miscellaneous information na, for example, 75-year-old woman na nag-take ng antibiotic tapos meron din siyang atherosclerosis tapos bigla siyang nagda-diarrhea. So, the diarrhea could be from the antibiotic or from the atherosclerosis, pero you don't know. So it teaches you to filter out information,
mga irrelevant na information,
which is what happens in clinical practice also when you're sitting, diba, when you're in your own clinic, tapos the patient will give you 10 problems all unrelated, or you think they're all unrelated, pero some of them are related, some of them aren't. So that's what's so nice about the style of questioning.
Sort of simulates an actual case, exactly, an actual patient. I think it's nice, no, if we could dedicate an episode for all the USMLE resources na makakatulong for USMLE preparation.
Mahaba-habang kwentuhan yan.
Yeah, madaming resources and mahirap siyang i-navigate.
So, sasabi mo pa rin, Arvin, regarding my question, na it's still best to take it after graduation, after internship, as opposed to taking it during your med school. Parang hindi pa masyadong hinog siguro yung clinical eye natin, no?
Oh, that's true. Kasi we have to realize that the people who go into med school in the States are quite much older than us. A lot of them. Tapos the way their curriculum is run is different. Parang third year pa lang nasa hospital na sila. Tayo third year nasa classroom pa din. Tapos what else? I think even some third year students, even some med school students in the States don't really take step 1 after second year. Parang some of them, mga middle of third year, mga ganun. So medyo may background na sila. And then, syempre, what do you call this? Yung tinuturo sa kanila during med school is really kind of geared towards the way the MLE questions are written, diba? Parang sa atin, the way we're taught here is PLE
for
oriented.
the PLE. Syempre, no?
Paano kaya pag sila ipag-take natin ng PLE?
Oh, diba? Parang ganun din. Mahirapan din sila.
Ang name ng reviewer, Arvin World.
Master Adrian World. MA.
Okay, so it's best to take it after. Okay, so that's a nice point. After na, no? Kasi late na rin yung clinical exposure natin dito sa Philippines. Well, sa US,
may benefit to taking it earlier. And sometimes I wish, preparing for Step 2 CK now, tapos tinatry kong habulin yung 2022 match na simula. Part of me thinks na sana I took it earlier, pero sana siguro tapos na ako sa Step 2 right now, and then I could be worrying about other things. Tapos, yun nga, and then every once in a while, somebody will remind me through stories na parang, alam mo ba si ganito, nag-take siya ng mas maaga. Pero, and then, syempre, curious ako, diba? So, then I ask, anong score niya? Kasi I was thinking in my head, kung ako kaya yung nandoon na nag-take at that time, what will my score be? And then, surprisingly na, yun nga, parang the score isn't as good as people want it to be for you, for a person coming from a different country. And unfortunately, in the States, they look at scores. It's not everything.
Objective kasi.
Kasi ang daming tao sa States, so they make it really objective. It's not everything. The scores, for example, if you get a bad score, that's not the end of the world for you. Pero if you can, what people always say is parang if you can try to get a good score, then then go do that.
Yeah, syempre naman. Oo. The higher the
Parang
better
filter,
siguro.
no?
Especially
Yeah,
for
the
us
higher
foreign graduates.
yeah,
No? Siguro mas mataas yung
Parang
standards
ganun.
nila for us.
Parang we have to be more impressive.
Well, anyway, so yun. The best time to start studying once you have decided that you're going to take the USMLE, or even if you haven't really fully decided na mag-USMLE ka, well, the best time to start studying is as you enter med school or as early as possible, sabi ni Arvin sa atin. And I think
Siguro
tama
yung
din
core,
yun,
yung
diba?
core natin, just be a good student pa.
Yeah.
Hindi ka pa decided.
Yeah. And step 1 is
Tapos once
really
in a while.
foundation, di ba? Foundation siya talaga, sabi nga ni Arvin. And in fact,
Patibayan ng foundation.
relevant pa siya sa step 2, yung step 1 knowledge. And it's really best to plan ahead. What he did nga was to break up the whole book into a few pages every
1
day.
year, no?
Yeah. The
Divide
whole
and
year,
conquer
oo.
pala si Arvin, no?
I think that's the best approach talaga for any endeavor. Hindi lang for the
And
USMLE.
sometimes, no, sabi ni Arvin, pwede ka mag-chicken out.
Yeah.
I mean, dapat ma-handle natin yung frustration
Mm-mm.
kung feeling mo hindi mo pa time mag-take. Yun yung isa pang kailangan matutunan siguro.
Self-awareness siguro, no? I mean,
Awareness, oo.
siguro may basis naman yung pag-chicken out niya. Baka feel niya hindi talaga siya prepared pa. So, I mean, may basis naman yung minsan, no? Siguro you just have to listen to yourself really. You just really have to be aware sa strengths and
Yun
weaknesses.
yung advantage ng MLE. Kasi pag PL, nag-chicken out ka, hintay ka ng 6 months. Pag MLE, araw-araw may MLE naman eh.
Araw-araw ba yun? Okay.
So, pag PLE, hindi pwede mag-chicken out kasi abangers ka ng 6 months.
Sabi nga di Arvin, high stakes din yung exam and it doesn't come cheap din. Mahal din siya, no? So you really have to perform optimally. And, kasi sayang din yung
Ideally,
pera,
kung saan ka mag-step 1, doon ka rin mag-step 2 para comfy ka na.
Sabi nga ni Arvin. And as much as possible, sa home country mo na lang. So, dito sa Pilipinas. Kasi may comfort factor which is a very
Kung
big
mag-take
thing.
ka sa Russia, baka ginawin ka. No?
Well, anyway, Arvin, thank you so much. As much as marami pa kaming questions actually, Arvin, na nalista. But, of course, we don't have the luxury of time. Hopefully, we can still invite you for our coming episodes in the USMLE series. Sana you will still accept our invitation kasi marami pa actually kaming na-plan out na episodes for the USMLE
Super
series.
dami.
Sure, of course, anytime.
So, Arvin, meron ka bang message sa mga gusto mag-take? Kahit very short message.
I think the best approach to the whole thing is to think na all of the stuff that you're reading and making an effort of trying to memorize or trying to get right, lahat ng yun, hindi siya mapupunta sa wala. It's gonna make you a better doctor in the end. And that's really, at the end of the day, yun lang naman yan. An exam is just an exam. Like yun, diba? Some people are good test takers talaga. Some people are not so much good test takers. But they're good doctors. Which is at the end of the day, it's what's really more important. Kasi nobody wants like a good test taker but a bad doctor. Diba? That's not what somebody wants.
Lugi yung pasyente.
Lugi yung pasyente by a lot. Anong pakialam niya kung magna cum laude ka hindi mo magamot yung infection niya. Diba?
Thank you so much, Arvin. Thank you so much for your time and thank you so much. It's an honor and we are so glad to have you on our first episode.
Of course, it was a
Next time na yung
Legend.
natin. Next time na yung score reveal natin.
Next time na daw yung score reveal. Oo.
Sige, no problem.
Para may aabangan pa yung listeners natin. Thank you
Sige, no
very
problem.
much, Arvin.
Thank you
ah.
very much, of course, anytime.
The perfect man.
Thank you. So this has been Adrian.
And this has been Mike. Catch us again next week for your refill prescription of
The
Better
Better Pill.
Pill.